talking real estate, joined by Jeff Chubb of Chubb Realty Group and RE/MAX. Jeff, thanks for stopping by.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
You've been selling real estate for almost 20 years, and you have a big team that sells real estate all across Massachusetts. The art of selling real estate has really kind of changed over the years.
It's changed a lot. So I'm a young guy. I've been doing this for, at this point, you can tell by, I don't call them gray hairs, the platinum hairs in my head, that real estate's starting to take its toll on me after 20 years. But so I grew up in a real estate family. So I actually am one of the few agents out there that remember when the MLS was actually publishing a book once a month and come drop on your desk. And as an agent, I remember my mom being really excited in the beginning of every single month. So
it seems archaic.
Yeah, right. I mean,
not that long ago though.
It's crazy. I still remember when, like, she was one of the first with the cell phone, how big of a deal that was, or my dad's bag phone, you know. And so you look at then where response time back then was, you know, if you got back to somebody within 48 hours, you were considered quick. I was just on at a conference with Realtor.com, and they said you have about 38 seconds in order to get back to a prospect in order to get the highest conversion rate you possibly can.
That's amazing.
Right?
About it.
It's crazy.
Where's the world going?
38 seconds. I mean, the internet, it's done so many great things for us. I mean, you think about it, like, just all the things wonderful, that just the luxuries we have in our life. But one thing it hasn't done, it hasn't made us more patient.
No. True story.
We want our information right now.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's crazy because people want that information faster and they want more of that information. So in order to give that consumer more information as well as the speed, you know, that's why we're really starting to see a lot more teams, and that's essentially what we are. Because, you know, at this point, there's a right way to sell real estate, in my opinion, and there's a wrong way. And the right way, quite frankly, is not just putting a post in the yard, throwing it on the MLS, and doing a little wishing and praying. The right way is, there's a huge investment in all these houses, even more than it was 20, 30 years ago, where you'd call up the Boston Globe and you'd just place a couple ads in the, you know, newspaper for your listings, and that's it. Like, that's all the marketing you could do. Today you have to be in so many different areas, and you have to do it right.
And that's what I think a lot of people don't realize is the cost to sell a home. People look at realtors sometimes, they're like, oh, they're getting my listing, the market's hot, it's easy to sell, right. Throw a sign in the front yard. That is not the case. There's so much more that goes into it.
Absolutely. So
if done correctly.
I mean, think of it this way. So research shows that as a marketer, because I look at it, I own a marketing company that happens to specialize in real estate, right? That's my perception of my company. So as a marketer, research shows I have 8 seconds to grab your attention. 8 seconds. And it's even worse. If you're a millennial, I only have 6 seconds to grab your attention. So let's talk about real estate and how that matters to real estate. So in 6 to 8 seconds, that's about 2 pictures. If you're looking on, you know, if somebody's looking online, you have 2 pictures to grab their attention. Otherwise, they're on to your neighbor's house. So when you talk about, okay, let's talk about a picture, right? Well, it makes me crazy when I see the people taking, you can tell what an iPhone picture is, right? I mean, it's obvious.
Absolutely, it's different.
So you compare that picture to a professional photographer. Well, there's an investment in order to have a professional photographer come in, right? But even before that, you need to stage the house, because if you're taking a picture of a kitchen and there's a bunch of stuff on the counters, it is going to look awful.
Yep.
In that 2-picture chance that you have in order to capture their attention. And you capture their attention, that's when they look at all the other pictures. Maybe that's at that point they start looking at the description of your house. Then they go to Google Maps. We do something pretty cool. It's an interactive virtual 3D tour. So literally, somebody's able to walk the house, look up, look down, zoom in, zoom out, and walk the house to whatever parts of the room that they want, all from the comfort of their computer.
Which has a tremendous impact as a buyer in today's market. If you can do that, that's awesome.
Right.
The seller has to realize that's not free,
right,
for the agent, right? I mean, that's why it matters who's selling your home.
You know, the camera alone, just for that, cost me $10,000. Just the camera.
It's an investment.
It's an investment in my business, but also to my sellers, because, you know, they're hiring me to put on the best product that I possibly can. And, you know, frankly, you need to give them, the consumer, that information, because if you don't, they're going to go looking in another avenue for that information, right? And the difference is you don't control that other avenue. So you want to give them as much as humanly possible. You want to keep it as sticky as possible to them looking at your house on whatever information site that they're on. So, you know, whether it be our website or Zillow or because they're direct feeds from our websites, right? But the consumer, they need all the information, they need it fast, and they want answers to their questions extremely fast. So,
From the seller side, somebody's thinking about selling their home. They're interviewing an agent.
Right.
What questions should they be asking? What's like the top 3 questions to ask the agent to make sure that they're qualified to sell your home?
One that is kind of obvious: how many houses have you sold? Right. I mean, because experience comes in numbers. And ultimately, if I'm brand new in the business, I'm going to learn some lessons, and it's going to be on the seller's time that I'm learning those lessons. You want somebody who's experienced, and that really relays into how good of a negotiator they are. So you can ask what the average list to sale price ratio is, but that's a little unfair sometimes to some agents, because somebody who specifically specializes in an area, say South Boston, well, they're going to pound their chest that, hey, we have a 103% list to sale price ratio. Okay, you're in Southie.
Market driven.
Right,
Yeah.
versus if somebody's in Weymouth and the average list to sale price ratio is 99.2% last time I checked, well, if their average list to sale price ratio is 99.8%, then that's pretty good, right? So you have to be a little careful with that question. But also a question that they really should be asking is, do you work on a team? Do you have members behind you? Because we all get sick. We all need to take a vacation, believe it or not. And sometimes we all need to pick up our kids. And so, working as a team concept, it essentially make sure all the balls in the air because there's a lot of moving parts in a real estate transaction, all those balls in the air, by working as a team, none of them are going to drop on the ground. And because any mistakes in the transaction, it costs the seller money. Not the agent, it costs the seller the money.
Yep.
So you want somebody experienced.
Great point. Now, for the agent out there that's looking to find a shingle to hang their hat on, right? What should they be looking for? What are the tools that you need today in the real estate business as a realtor to succeed?
The real estate industry is changing so quickly. I mean, like I said, 48 hours it was, back in the 80s and 90s, and then, early 2000s. I remember the MIT study that said you had 10 minutes in order to get back to prospective buyer, and today we just talked about Realtor.com saying 38 seconds. So technology is a big part of, an agent's ability to succeed ultimately. So when we look at the industry in the beginning, or let's back it up 40, 50 years ago, it was all real, big box centric. So people hired Coldwell Banker, for example. And then somewhere in the 80s or 90s, it became really agent centric. So, they were hiring John Smith, to come and sell their house, and they didn't necessarily care as much about the names like Remax or Coldwell Banker. And then somewhere in the late 90s, early 2000s, you started to see this development of these smaller teams. And I really think that was part of, you're starting to have to invest a lot more in your business. So it was a matter of, okay, well, let's team up. Not to mention, you needed to get back to people even quicker. So, hey, I'm going to cover you. Right, yeah. Exactly. And now you're starting to really see these mega teams. I was down in Charleston at a friend's team. He has 80 buyer agents that work with him. And I mean, that's a true mega team. But if you saw this operation and how they interacted with their clients and how they represented them, it was absolutely incredible. Because they were giving these agents all the technology in the world with CRMs. They had inside sales associate department, like a call center basically. So that way when leads were coming in, we were talking about 38 seconds. Well, if you're a single agent and you're on a listing appointment, how are you going to follow up with a lead in 38 seconds? You're not. Right? So, it's really important to have somebody that's working with you that's going to help interact with that lead, so that way that lead is responded to quickly. They get the information that they need quickly, and they're scheduling a showing to the listing, to the seller that you're representing. So it's a big part of the resources. It's really come down to the resources that these larger teams are able to provide and give to their agents in order to put them in a better position of success ultimately. And then leads. I mean, these big teams, they receive a lot of leads, and ultimately the hardest thing to do today as a real estate entrepreneur is it's getting the leads, and you need leads in order to get clients in order to sell them a house. So.
There's a lot of people out there that say they're going to jump into real estate. They take the test.
It's such a flexible job.
Correct.
I mean, I hear that all the time.
It could be a great lifestyle if successful.
Right.
But a lot of people jump in, they get licensed, and they think that they're going to go out there and just sell homes. It really is not as easy as it looks. And you just laid it out. I mean, you got to look for technology. especially if you're just getting into it, look to be part of a team.
Yep.
Learn from somebody who's been in the game and established, and somebody that can provide you with leads.
Opportunities. I mean, I try not to use the word leads. I try to use opportunities because that's what they are. And without those, you're not going to have the opportunity to succeed. My broker, he is a really funny thing. So when somebody says, "Hey, I'm looking to come into real estate, be more flexible, I don't want to do the 9 to 5," and he'll say, "Well, it's great. So to work in our office and to be successful, you only have to work a half day." And everybody looks at me, "Really? That's all I need to work a half day?" And that's where he says, "Yeah, the first 12 hours, that's what you have to work. It's the other 12 hours. You can do whatever you want in those other 12 hours, but that flexibility of the first 12 hours, that's ours. That's the office time." And that's ultimately what it is to be successful. I mean,
it's like anything in life.
It's a tough business. It's a cutthroat business, and and you think about it. The top 10% of agents, and this is a statistic that you can go from market to market, state to state, doesn't really matter. Top 10% of agents, they do 90% of the business, and there's a reason for that.
They work in the front 12.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Jeff, I know you have a team with RE/MAX and looking to grow. So if somebody wants to reach out to you directly and is interested connecting, what's the best way to do that?
Probably by phone. Call us at 617-480-2600. They can also shoot me an email at jeff@boston2.com.
Really cool website. Check out boston2.com. Jeff, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Pleasure speaking with you.
And remember, this is Real Estate powered by Hub right here on boston.com.